Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Bacon. Welcome to the show, y'all. There's something about losing trust that don't end when the story does. It lingers like smoke from a fire you thought you put out. Even after the air clears, your lungs still know what burned. After DeAndre left, I thought the ghost would go with him. But that's the problem with ghosts. They don't belong to people. They belong to guilt, and guilt don't transfer. Every time my locker door clicked shut, I'd hear that old phone hum, even though it was dead and buried. Even when I'd lay on my bunk, eyes closed, pretending to be somewhere else, I could still feel that vibration under my ribs. It wasn't the phone anymore. It was me. Prison does that. It turns your body into evidence. You start recording everything you wish you didn't see. Every word, every angle, every sound that could mean betrayal or forgiveness, depending on who's listening. Tasha never texted again, and I didn't blame her. But sometimes I dream about her phone lighting up, message from me that said, "It wasn't what you think." Dreams lie too, but they do it softly. I started keeping to myself again, same way I did after the riots in '09, when the air was thick with bleach and rumor. I cleaned, I read, I worked laundry. Routine became my detox of the rhythm of machines, the hiss of dryers, the way hot air fogged my glasses until I disappeared for a minute. Those were my meetings, my therapy, my penance. They moved a new cellie in, Ramon. Big dude, quiet, carried sadness like a second shirt. Didn't ask questions, didn't borrow, didn't snore. Perfect. One night while folding state towels, he asked me, "You ever trust the wrong one?" I said, "Everyone starts right until they wrong." He laughed, not from humor, but from recognition. Then he said, "I had a girl track me too, out there. Used to check my location every time I said I was with my cousin." I nodded. "They don't trust the road, not the driver." "Yeah," he said. "Thing is, sometimes they right not to." He looked at me like he was asking permission to confess, but I didn't give it. And here, you don't ask men to unpack what still bleeds. Still, I respected him. We shared quiet like cigarettes. Weeks passed. Officer Monroe, started showing up more than he used to, never empty-handed. Clipboard. Clipboard was his armor. He'd lean against my door, casual like a man checking his investments. "You heard from your friend Carter?" he'd ask. "Why?" "Just wondering how his adjustment's going." I said, you can check your own paperwork." He smiled like the kind of man who ain't used to being told no. "I like first-hand reports," he said. I said, "I like quiet. We both can't win." He left laughing, but his eyes said I was back on somebody's list. I started feeling watched again, not by Tasha this time, but by the system. It's a different kind of tracking when you can't see the device. You start second guessing your own heartbeat, wondering if it's sending signals somewhere. That night, a kite slid under my door. It wasn't addressed. I opened it and read, "Monroe been asking everybody who had phones. Said Carter dropped your name before the transfer." I sat there with that paper on my knee like it was a match and I was gasoline. So that was it. DeAndre didn't just steal my name with a woman. He sold it for peace with the cops. He wasn't done using me. I burned the kite, flushed the ashes, and decided to do what I always do when the game starts to rig itself. Play smarter, not louder. Monroe came back 2 days later, same grin, same clipboard. He leaned in, tapped the bars, and said, "We both know there's something you ain't telling me, Baker." I leaned closer. "We both know you ain't gonna find it." He smirked. "Funny thing about ghosts. They leave fingerprints, not if they burn their hands first," I said. He walked off, didn't look back. After that, the searches started again. They popped my cell at random, turned it over, flipped my mattress, take apart my soap, found nothing. But that was the point. They wanted me paranoid, not punished. And it worked. I couldn't sleep right. Every sound was a threat auditioning for a role. I sit up at 3 a.m. watching shadow crawl across the wall, wondering which one was real. Ramon said, "You gotta let that go, Joe." I said, "Letting go is what got me here." He shook his head. "Then you holding the wrong things." The man had a way of saying truth like it was flavorless medicine, hard to swallow, but it worked. Months passed, and like all storms, the attention shifted. New beef popped off on another unit. New phones found, new snitches promoted. The heat left me alone. But by then, I wasn't the same. I started writing again, not letters this time, just thoughts. Things I couldn't say out loud, because truth in here is like currency. You spend it once, and everybody knows what you got left. I wrote about privacy, about betrayal, about how easy it is to become somebody else's mistake. And somewhere in the middle of that writing, I realized something ugly but real. Sometimes the people who break you don't mean to. They just too broken to notice. One day, while cleaning out the dryer filters, I found something strange wedged behind the grate. The SIM card, I froze. It wasn't mine. It could have been anyone's. Could have been planted too. But something about the weight of it in my palm felt like history repeating, like God testing whether I learned anything. I stared at it for a long time. Couldn't tell if it was temptation or revenge disguised as opportunity. So I slipped it in my sock, finished my shift, and thought about what I'd do next. That night, I sat on my bunk and unwrapped it. It was scratched, old, but not dead. And for a minute, I wanted to feel connected again to anyone, even a stranger. But then I remembered Tasha's voice in those messages I didn't send. Her trust, her fear, her faith misplaced in my name. I wrapped the SIM card back up and slid it into the crack behind the laundry vent, let it sit there like a secret that didn't need an audience. Next day, a new officer, Jenkins, ran a surprise search. Guess where he started? The laundry? Guess where he ended? My vent. They pulled out that SIM like a fisherman showing off a catch. "Look what we got here," Jenkins said. Monroe walked in a minute later, grinning like deja vu. He said, "Seems like your luck don't change, Baker." I said, "Luck ain't real. Just timing with bad manners. And they cuffed me anyway." Took me to the whole pending investigation. Same cell, same smell, same echo that made you argue with yourself. Days blurred. And the only sound was my own breathing. But on the fourth night, I heard something that made my skin crawl. Voices 2 cells down. Low, sneaky, familiar. Monroe's laugh and another voice, DeAndre's. I froze when he was back and they were talking about me. "He'll fold this time," Monroe said. "He don't fold," DeAndre replied. "He just waits too long." "Well, everyone's got a number." "Then make sure you pay him in patience." I laid there staring at the ceiling, realizing that every bad choice I'd ever made was still sending invoices. The tracker, the phone, the trust, all of it circled back. When they pulled me out the hole 3 days later, Monroe was waiting. "No charges," he said. "Turns out it wasn't your SIM." I nodded, knew that. He smiled. "We like men who can keep their mouth shut." I said, "You like men who make your job easy." He leaned close, whispered, "Same thing." That's when I realized I wasn't fighting one man. I was fighting a system that fed on whispers. It don't want truth. It wants stories that sound believable. And I had too many of those. When I got back to the unit, Ramon was gone. Transfer, they said, and no warning, no goodbye, just his blanket folded perfect and a note tucked under my chessboard. Some lies keep you safe, others keep you stuck. I pinned it to the wall like scripture, because maybe that's what this whole stretch was. A sermon I ain't asked for. I used to think betrayal was the worst thing that could happen to a man. Now I know it's what happens after. When you start believing every kindness got a receipt. When you start checking the shadows even when the lights are on. When love sounds like surveillance and trust feels like a setup. But you can't stay paranoid forever. It rots your instincts, turns survivors into suspects. So I started doing something new, something I hadn't done in years. I forgave not DeAndre, not Tasha, myself, for thinking I could ever outsmart loneliness. It's been a while now. The phone's gone. The ghost's quiet, but sometimes at night, when the air hums with the same stillness that started all this, I swear I can hear that old vibration again. And maybe it ain't technology this time. Maybe it's just the universe reminding me, you can't track peace. You can only earn it. And when that thought hits me, I close my eyes and let the quiet sit beside me. Because sometimes peace don't speak English. Sometimes it just watches. And for the first time in a long time, I let it watch me back. This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.